Well, guys, another regular season is in the books, and it's now time for the 2023 NFL playoffs. Hard to believe, another year of doing this, and it's coming down to this. The final 14 teams. But of course, before we get to the playoffs, I need to talk about my picks from the last week. So last week, I went 9-7, which is worse than the last 3 weeks, and was actually worse than my last week of 2022 at 10-6. So overall in 2023, I went 171-101, which is a win percentage of .629, which is just slightly worse than last year's result, where I went 107-102, which was .631% win. And of course, in 2021, I went 170-101-1, which is 62.7% winning. So very similar stats like the last 3 years, but in the end, just slightly worse. I got one more victory, but one more loss, and no extra tie to give me an extra win and all that. So that's how I went in 2023. 9-7 the last week, and 171-101 the rest of the way. And then, of course, we got to talk about the teams that are in the playoffs. Starting off in the AFC, the number 1 seed Ravens. Did not think going to begin the year they were going to be number 1 seed. I thought they were going to be barely about how they were last year. But nope. They went 13-4 and got home field advantage for the first time since 2019. And all 3 of their losses, too, were close. So, all 4 of their losses, I mean. So, they could have been 17-0 if everything went right. That's wild. So, then the second seed, the Bills. Everyone shat on them like the final few weeks of the year. Like, they're 6-6. They're not going to go anywhere. I was like, no, don't underestimate them. They're a very good team that just keeps losing games. And that's what happened. They won all their final 5 games to not only make the playoffs for the 5th year in a row, but they won the AFC East for the 4th year in a row after they just beat the Dolphins a bit ago. So, they've now got the second seed unlocked once again. And how about the defending champion Chiefs? Man, they struggled this year as Mahomes. That offense has just been terrible. That defense has largely been saving as they went 11-6. Major regression from last year. And then the big story, the Texans. How about that? One of the worst teams the last 3 years, and here they are, 10-7 with Stroud. Awesome season they had. They made the playoffs and won the AFC South for the first time since 2019. And then the wildcard teams, the Browns, made the playoffs for the first time since 2020. They went 11-6 with one of the league's best defenses. Shaky offense that Flacco thankfully came in and is fixed the ship a little bit as they pretty much went almost undefeated with him afterwards. And then the Dolphins. Man, they were one of my Super Bowl contenders at the beginning part of the year. And at the beginning part of the year, they looked elite, but down the stretch, they kind of not look the same. The defense isn't good. They keep getting obliterated or not win against teams with winning records and all that. So they really choked it just now when they lost to the Bills. So instead of being the 2nd seed, they are the 6th seed in the wild card. Just think they could have beaten the Ravens too. They could have maybe had the number 1 seed, but they blew it. And then finally, the Steelers. Of course, as I said, going into the year, no matter how bad the Steelers are going to be, they're going to find some way to have a win record and get into the playoffs potentially. And that's exactly what they did. Not 10-7, despite having a horrible offense with their defense saving them, they are in the playoffs for the first time since 2021. So in the NFC, the 49ers, although they had a worse record last year, thanks to everyone else choking in the conference, they got the number 1 seed for the first time since 2019, as they look like one of the best teams in the conference. The Cowboys, they keep choking a lot in a lot of their games, but they also look like one of the best teams in the conference. 12-5 for the 3rd year in a row, and they got the 2nd seed unlocked and won the NFC East for the first time since 2021. And how about the Lions? I predicted them they were going to win the NFC North this year, and there were some moments where they looked a little shaky and all that, but they did so. 12-5, the most wins they've had since 1991. They made the playoffs for the first time since 2016, and in one of the longest droughts in the league. And for the first time since 1993, they have won the NFC North. Oh my God! And I can finally get to see them play a home game in my life. Other than the one time they did in my lifetime, which was a few months after I was born. And then how about the Buccaneers? I did not think they were going to be competitive this year. I thought when they brought in Baker, I thought they were going to be... Honestly, I thought they were going to be like the worst team in the NFC South, but nope. They showed up. They played a lot better than they did last year, and Baker had a great year, and the Buccaneers made the playoffs for the 4th year in a row, and they won the NFC South for the 3rd year in a row. And unlike last year, they look like they have some momentum going into the playoffs right now. And then our conference runner-up last year, Eagles. I wasn't really sold much on the Eagles this year. They just didn't really impress me. Even though they were 10-1 at one point, it looked like they were going to get number 1 seed again. And then these last 6 weeks, they've bottomed out, going from 10-1 to 11-6, barely making the playoffs. As they look, honestly, like one of the worst teams in the playoffs. I think even the Steelers might be better than them right now. That's saying something. So Eagles, terrible shape going into the playoffs. And then how about the Rams? After having a terrible year last year, I didn't think they were going to do much this year, and especially when they start off 3-6. But nope, they turn around afterwards. They've gone 7-1 since they made the playoffs for the first time since 2021. Maybe they look like a team that should be taken seriously going into the playoffs. And then finally, the last team, another team that needs to be taken seriously, is the Packers. As Jordan Love, after having a slow start to his tenure with the Packers, turned around near the end, just like the Rams, going from 3-6 to 9-8 and sneaking in for the first time since 2021, doing what they couldn't do last year, as they also look very scary. So yeah, that is the teams in the playoffs. So now let's get to my playoff predictions. Alright, so here is the playoff bracket going for this year, as it starts off with in the AFC as the Ravens have the bye, with Steelers at Bills, Dolphins at Chiefs, and Browns at Texans. And the NFC, it's the 49ers with the bye, with Packers at Cowboys, Rams at Lions, and Eagles at Buccaneers. So, let's start with my predictions. We start from the wild card round, as of course it'll start off with the Browns at the Texans, as this is the first time these teams have played each other in the playoffs. This is a rematch from earlier in the year, a few weeks ago, where the Browns won both pretty convincingly, but it was still a high-scoring game. It was like 36-22, as the Browns won that. This will be very interesting to see how the Texans do against that very elite Browns defense in the rematch. However, I still think I'm going to pick the Browns for this one, but maybe I won't be surprised if the Texans do it, because they've been pretty good this year. And then after that, it's the Dolphins at the Chiefs, as this is the first time the Dolphins and Chiefs have played each other in the playoffs since the 1994 wildcard round, I believe, as this will be, the Chiefs, of course, struggled to get in, and now the Dolphins also struggled to get in. This is going to be kind of an interesting game between two teams. Remember early in the year they were like 7-2 and stuff like that, and they've really fallen off afterwards. Very interesting about this game. Now, of course, remember, this is a rematch, too, from earlier in the year in Germany, where the Chiefs beat the Dolphins 21-14. Oh, man, this is a tough one, because I honestly don't really trust either of them right now. The Chiefs have been largely terrible all year, and the Dolphins these last few weeks have just not been that impressive and such. I think, especially how the way the Dolphins have been playing lately, and of course the rematch from earlier in the year, I think I just might pick the Chiefs still for this one. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Dolphins maybe get it. Alright, then we get to the Saturday games, as we still stay on the AFC side, as it's the Steelers at the Bills. This is the first time the Steelers and Bills have played each other in the playoffs since, I believe, the 1995 divisional round. And the Bills, of course, this is the last time they played, too, was last year. Remember when the Steelers got destroyed by the Bills 38-3. The Steelers have a really good defense. They have a defense that could give the Bills fits. Now, of course, TJ Watt, who knows if he's going to be playing, though, since he got injured when they played the Ravens. So that's not very good. But the Steelers' offense is terrible. I don't think the Bills' defense are going to have much effort for it. So because of that, and of course, who knows if Watt's going to be playing, I'm going to pick the Bills for this one, which would then set up the Browns at the Ravens and the Chiefs at the Bills. All right, then the NFC side starts off with the Packers at the Cowboys, as this is the first time these two played each other in the playoffs since the 2016 divisional round game, as the Cowboys, of course, got the second seed on lock, and last time they played too was last year, where the Packers beat them in overtime to end their 5-game losing streak at the time. This is going to be an interesting game. Cowboys have not lost at home, but the Packers are on a roll right now. And remember the last time the Cowboys played the Packers, and of course the Cowboys in general regularly choke in the playoffs and all that. I would not be surprised if the Packers go down there and actually beat the Cowboys. That's going to be a very competitive game. But I think right now I might still pick the Cowboys, but I'm not fully convinced. And then after that Sunday night, it will be the Rams at the Lions. This is the first time these two have played each other in the playoffs. I think this is actually the first time the Rams and Lions have played each other in the playoffs. I can't think of another time they played each other off the top of my head. How about this? Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford are going against their former team. That is going to be insane from both different angles. Absolutely insane. Of course, this is a rematch. Last time they played was 2 years ago when the Rams beat the Lions. I think this will be a competitive game, but I think I'll pick the Lions for this one. And then finally, our final wild card game on Monday night, just kind of like how last year. And of course, it's the Eagles at the Buccaneers. This is the first time they played in the playoffs since the wild card round 2 years ago. And remember, these two played each other on Monday night earlier in week 3, and the Eagles kind of spanked the Buccaneers in that one. Now, how much the teams have changed since? The Eagles have no momentum, and I think they're the worst team in the playoffs right now. And the Buccaneers, I think, are pretty solid right now. Whereas last year, I thought they were terrible going into the playoffs. I actually think this time around, I think I'm going to pick the Buccaneers to get it. I guess I won't be surprised if the Eagles get it since they beat them earlier in the year, but I think I'm going to pick the Buccaneers this time around. Alright, now of course the schedule has not been revealed for the divisional round games, and it's not going to be revealed until after the wild card game. So I'm just going to go by the same order, AFC to NFC. So we'll start off in the number 1 game, as it's going to be the Browns at the Ravens. This is the first time these two have played each other in the playoffs. And it's going to be wild seeing Flacco for only the second time go up against his former team. This will be the first time he's in Baltimore, too. And in a massive spot in the playoffs, too. As the Ravens, of course, remember these two split each other in the year. The Ravens destroyed the Bills when they visited them in Cleveland. I think it was like 28-3. But then the last time they played, the Browns won on a last-second field goal, 33-31. So this game will go either way. The Browns have all this momentum on their side, and they beat the Ravens early in the year. And the problem for the Ravens is that I just don't really trust them still. Especially number 1 seed. Remember in 2006 when they blew it against the Colts, and then 4 years ago when I was so high on them when they got obliterated by the Titans. I'm just not so sure I feel comfortable about them winning, especially against a team that has a lot of momentum on their side, and they already beat them in Baltimore early in the year. So this might be a possibly bold pick, but I'm going to pick the Browns to get it and go to the conference championship for the first time since 1989. And then it'd be the Chiefs at the Bills. This will be the rematch. The last time they played in the playoffs was the 2021 divisional round, that wild game too. And of course, they've played each other early in the year, and the Bills, just like they've done the last few years, gone down to Kansas City and won it. And, of course, this will be the first game Mahomes played on the road in the playoffs, so people can stop talking about it. This will be one wild game, but since knowing the Bills' history and the momentum they have, whereas the Chiefs have, no momentum, I'm going to pick the Bills to get this. And they will be in the conference championship for the first time since 2020. Then it will be the Buccaneers at the 49ers. This will be the first time they've played in the playoffs since, I believe, the 2002 wild card round. And they played each other early in the year, and the 49ers got a convincing victory on the Buccaneers. This will be a wild game. Very interesting, but I'll pick the 49ers still for this one. And they'll make the conference championship for the 3rd year in a row. And then it'll be the Lions at the Cowboys. The first time they've played each other in the playoffs since the 1991 divisional round, which was the last time the Lions won a playoff game. And of course, this will be a rematch from a few weeks ago on Monday night when the Cowboys held on to beat the Lions when the Lions got screwed over. This will be an interesting game in the rematch. What's interesting about that game is the Lions, or at least Jared Goff, played terrible until that final drive. Dak and the Cowboys played better, but they almost lost to the Lions. This is a tough one to pick, honestly. Oh, man, it is a tough one. But I think, this really is a tough one. I think I might take a surprise pick, and I think I'll pick the Lions to get this time in a rematch. And they'll be in the conference championship for the first time since 1991. So then we get to the conference championships. This year, of course, the AFC is the home team in the Super Bowl, so they'll be the first one, as it'll be the Browns at the Bills. This is the first time they've played each other in the playoffs since, I believe, the 1989 divisional round. And this will be a very defensive struggle game against two very good defenses. And Flacco is going to have to go ball out crazy in this one because he's going to have to go up against one of the best QBs in the league in Allen. And I think, especially since the Bills play much better when they're at home instead of on the road, I think I still might pick the Bills for this one. And they'll be in the Super Bowl for the first time since 1993. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns get it. And then it'll be the NFC Championship. Lions at the 49ers. As this is the first time they've played in the playoffs since I believe the 1983 divisional round. As, of course, the last time these two played was back in 2021, the season opener, where that was actually an offensive game, but the 49ers spanked the Lions. But, of course, that was a completely different team from the Lions were 2 years ago. This is a much better team now. And this will be a very interesting game, but I think the 49ers will still get the win. And with that, it will be my Super Bowl pick from, I think this was my pick last year too. The Bills and the 49ers going to Vegas, as the Bills try to get their first championship since 1965, and the 49ers try to get their first championship since 1994. Between the Bills offense and the 49ers defense, I think it could go either way. Now, the Bills defense against the 49ers offense, I think I might trust the 49ers defense a little bit more than that. And I think I trust Purdy more than I do Allen, because he's thrown a lot of picks this year. So I think this time, I'll pick the Bills to get it and get their first championship since 1994. Alright, so those are my playoff predictions. The Bills over the Steelers, the Chiefs over the Dolphins, the Browns over the Texans, the Cowboys over the Packers, the Lions over the Rams, the Buccaneers over the Eagles, the Browns over the Ravens, the Bills over the Chiefs, the 49ers over the Buccaneers, the Lions over the Cowboys, the Bills over the Browns, the 49ers over the Lions, and then the 49ers beating the Bills in the Super Bowl. And find out too, the 49ers will host the Bills next year, so we can have our Super Bowl rematch so early on. So anyways, guys, those are my picks. Hope you all enjoy. And of course, I will, if my Super Bowl matchup does not happen, or if the matchup, I think, changes, where I think the Bills could potentially win instead, I will do a new video after the conference championships is done and we know the actual Super Bowl matchup, and make my new Super Bowl predictions then. I've done this since 2015. The first year, I correctly predicted Broncos and Panthers. I got all the picks correct except the Super Bowl one. 2016, I picked the Patriots and Cowboys, and only the Patriots made it. 2017, I predicted Patriots and Vikings, only the Patriots made it. 2018, I picked the Ravens and Saints, and neither of them made it. 2019, I picked the Ravens and 49ers, only the 49ers made it. 2020, I picked the Bills and the Packers, I believe. And yeah, I think it was the Bills and Packers, and neither of them made it. 2021, I think it was the Bills and Packers again, maybe? Not sure, but neither of them made it, of course. And then last year, if I remember correctly, I think this was my Super Bowl prediction last year, too. 49ers at Bills. And, of course, neither of them made it. So we'll see if second time's around the charm. So like I said, if this Super Bowl prediction does not happen, or if something else changes, I will do a new video the day after the conference championship for my new picks. So see you all then, and what a wild season was. I cannot wait for the playoffs.